France 24 has published a report showcasing Ukrainian soldiers and a local NGO. The moral of their story: hunting for traitors in Kherson. That's the region where Russian forces withdrew from in early November. Let's get a good grip on all this right now with RT's Marina Kozareva, who's joining us here in the studio. Good afternoon to you. What can you tell us about this story?
Well, this report starts by showing a municipal worker changing pro-Russia banners to pro-Ukrainian ones. And one of the pro-Ukrainian banners features a local NGO that's been set up to find and track down people who collaborated with the Russian military. They call them traitors. Now, I looked up the website of this NGO, and it's an endless list of people. We can see some of the names now, and some of them, it's not only politicians. They have teachers, directors of schools, journalists. There is even a priest there. And their aim is to hunt them down and punish them. Punishment is the word that keeps being repeated here. The head of this NGO says that he's so happy that they have so much data and so much information on so many people. And even though this is an NGO, the reporter himself says that the aims of this NGO coincide with the government. And then they focus their attention on one guy who works for this NGO. He's part of Ukraine's special forces. And he's saying we need to find out, hunt down, he says, each and every one and punish them. Let's take a look at a clip.
De-Russification takes many forms, including the hunt for collaborators, or traitors, as this poster behind me calls them. Alexander is a special forces soldier. Hunting down collaborators is something he does too. Alexander has no sympathy for those that were tempted to work with the Russians. They have to be hunted down, he says.
And they didn't even bother to blur the QR code of this organization, so anyone can freely go there. And for example, you have a vendetta with your neighbor, go and tell on them and say that they're collaborators with the Russian military, for example. But that's minor compared to the main issue of this report, and that is that they don't show the aftermath of such activities. We've seen what Ukraine does with so-called traitors. There are numerous videos, like right now, we can see they're tied to lampposts, they put something over their eyes. This is the payback and punishment that they're talking about. And of course, when Ukrainians do this, there are no trials, there is no evidence, they don't care about proof, they just want to punish them. And again, let's not forget that a lot of the people who are in Ukraine's military are members of the notorious Azov battalion, who even the Western media, before this conflict with Ukraine began, they were reporting themselves that they have a far-right ideology and their means can be very, very brutal. And these are the men now hunting down civilians they see as traitors. Another report by France 24 sees local police officers in Kherson questioning locals. They say questioning. It looks more like terrorizing because they just stop random people on the street. They check their IDs. They go through their cell phones, trying to find any links they could have to Russia or Russian citizens or the Russian army. They even look through their social media. And then, what's more, French TV adds more fuel to the fire by inviting guests who outright call for attacks on Russian soil.
Other attacks can be done, this time much more symbolic. For example, regarding the range, what's been shown with their strikes is that they could have reached Moscow. Therefore, as an example, it could be easily said that the next victory parade in Moscow is a military target. Well, they are making a big parade, and I'm striking in the middle of the battalions that are marching.
Some viewers have already noticed this disturbing tendency to ignore crimes committed by the Ukrainian military and also encouraging attacks on Russian soil. And there was even one viewer who was tweeting, is the EU trying to incite a genocide of pro-Russia Ukrainians? And this is coming from Europe, when they're constantly saying that Russia and journalism, it's not balanced. We're here, we're seeing they're saying half the story and not even batting an eyelid over it.
Yeah, you know, Marina, I wanted to bring you up on a point you raised a few moments ago, and that was about 6 or 7, maybe maximum 8 years ago. The UK press, The Sun, the Daily Mail, they had front cover spreads of neo-Nazis in Ukraine and in the Ukrainian military. It was front cover spreads. It was openly being discussed by anyone who cared to discuss it. But since the conflict began, everyone's gone quiet.
Exactly, and this is what we're talking about. They are ignoring, like it didn't happen. But you can even go online and Google it and find those reports, and now they're saying nothing about it.
Yeah, indeed. Marina Kozareva, thanks for that.